All right, Samsung Galaxy S8 Honest Review, also known as How Do I Keep My Fingerprints Off of This Phone? Stay tuned for a fanboy-free look at the brand new fancy flagship from the guys at Samsung for 2017, the Galaxy S8. All right, jumping right in, you're going to see I'm going to freshly polish this bad boy, take it out of here so you can see that my fingerprints are not on the device, and then I won't clean it off again until the review is over and you'll be able to see how many fingerprints are just on this thing. So jumping right into the build of the phone, the fit, the finish, the feel, beautiful design. Samsung has really won me over this time with the Galaxy S8. I love how sleek and slim and trim and awesome this phone is. I mean, you cannot do pictures and videos, don't do it justice until you see it and hold on to it for the first time. It is probably one of the nicest designed phones I've seen in a very long time. That is still to be said, though, that there are drawbacks to this design. There are downsides to it. There are flaws. There are pretty major design elements that I disagree with, too. We'll get into those in a second. But first of all, this is a 5.6, I believe, inch display on this Galaxy S8. If you look, if I unlock the phone here using my fingerprint, you can kind of get an idea of just how big that display is and exactly how big of a screen you're talking about here in terms of the shape and design of the phone. Very thin bezels at the top, at the bottom, virtually no bezels at the side. They call it an infinity display. And you can see how that screen just kind of wraps around both sides of the phone. Truly stunning to look at, truly stunning to hold on to as well. We do have a volume rocker on the left side, as well as a dedicated Bixby button on the left. And what that means is you press the Bixby button and you get the Bixby Assistant, which is Samsung's copycat version of Google Now, or the Google Assistant. You know, I don't really find that too useful. I think it's sort of silly. Hopefully you can change that in software one day. They'll let you remap that to something that's a little bit more useful than Bixby. The right side of the phone does have a power button here located in the middle. All the buttons give a nice click feel to it. They all feel really great in your hand. They all have good responsive and tactile feel. On the bottom, we do have USB-C, which is awesome, followed by a 3.5mm headphone jack, which is also awesome, and a single speaker. We don't have dual stereo speakers. We don't have a front-facing stereo speaker, so a little bit of a downside there. If you end up holding your phone to brace it on the bottom, you end up covering the speaker a lot of times, so it kind of blocks the sound out of it. Lots of bells and whistles up top. Here you can see these sensors. We have a front-facing camera. We have an ambient light sensor. We have the retina scan or iris scan, sensors in here, proximity sensors for your ear, lots of different things up at the top. One other thing to notice is this top SIM tray here also has micro SD slot capacity or capability, so you can throw a micro SD card in there. Really great feature to have. A lot of new phones aren't having expandable storage, so Samsung still has kept that option on, which is great. No removable battery, which is a downside. We do have a fingerprint scanner on the back, which I said before. The fingerprint scanner works, it's okay. It's not as good as the Touch ID on the iPhone, and it's not as good as the fingerprint sensor on the Pixel. It is also located in a really strange location, being next to the camera. You're always going to get your fingerprint on the camera lens when you try and find this. Not to mention if you're like right-handed or left-handed, you don't really, it's just hard to find. There's too much stuff going on back here, especially if you switched sides with your hands. You're kind of like, where do I end up putting my phone or my finger? Other things to talk about in terms of the body. This is their midnight black version or whatever. This is essentially a copycat of Apple and the iPhone with their jet black color. This also scratches ridiculously easy. I don't know if you can see it here, but there is some scratches next to the Galaxy S8 logo. I'll show you those there in a second with the zoom in. And the phone also has this ambient display. They call it always on display, where you can change the clock, you can control things like music, you can go through your settings, quick access to settings, the display stays on, you can see your notifications, your battery life. This does work really well. I actually like how this looks, because when you have your phone down on your desk and you just want to glance at it for your time or how many notifications you have, you don't have to turn it on. And it's just a neat little feature to it. Virtual home button here on the phone, you push it down to click it. It does give you a little bit of a haptic feedback there to unlock it. You can then swipe the phone up to unlock it. or enter your PIN, or use your fingerprint, or like I said, use the iris scanner or face unlock. They all actually work pretty well, and they're pretty fast. Like if I go and push this up to my phone or my face, I hold it up, boom, it's already done, right? So the unlock is nice and lightning quick on this phone. Probably the biggest reason people are here to watch this video or to kind of see my impression of the S8 is the screen and what the screen does for this phone. The screen, guys, is fantastic. I mean, it is a Super AMOLED display. The colors are striking. They pop out at the screen at you. The Infinity display just rolls off the sides of the phone. I mean, it is fantastic to look at. The biggest downside to this whole thing is that this phone is literally impossible to use one-handed. And when I say that, I'm being honest here. I'm not, again, this is an honest review. I'm not being exaggerating. And I'll show you exactly what I mean here. Like if we run to the Maps app, right, and I try and use this, let me just show you guys what this is like to use one-handed. It's almost impossible to drag around and to navigate. You end up getting, you see this? You get all these false touches on the side of the screen, okay? So like every time I try and use this phone one-handed, I literally have to like rest it in my hand and then reach my thumb over to operate it. Otherwise, I get all these false presses from the sides of the screen. Okay, same thing happens when I'm actually navigating through the menu. Like I'll come here, I'll try and do this, right? I end up moving icons around, stuff doesn't end up going all the way. If I go into my Twitter app, you can see that trying to scroll in Twitter and trying to like use functionality in Twitter, I end up, see, I'm like not trying to click on that. I'm trying just to scroll, and like now I'm trying to go back and like it won't go. It's just the one-handed use on this phone is impossible. I mean, you cannot use this phone one-handed. A huge design flaw on the part of Samsung, in my opinion. One-handed phone use is critical to me, and the fact that I cannot use this phone one-handed is almost a deal breaker, probably is a deal breaker for me. Other things I've noticed that are really strange too is I've seen weird keyboard lag in this phone, and I've seen weird screen lag and screen sort of weird errors, like where the screen will stop functioning, it will stop responding to presses, it will go off on its own and just start unlocking the phone and moving things around. And I've got a video example of this here that you guys can check out. Camera in the phone is fantastic. I'll just jump in here really quickly and show you the detail on the camera. It's nice and fast. They haven't really changed anything in the camera compared to last year's Galaxy S7 camera. They say they've improved the software of it to make the image processing a little bit better, but the camera is nice and fast, and it actually offers really great resolution. And I'll show you some detail here. These running shoes that I just took. I'll just jump in here really quickly and show you the detail on the camera. It's nice and fast. They haven't really changed anything in the camera compared to last year's Galaxy S7 camera. They say they've improved the software of it to make the image processing a little bit better, but the camera is nice and fast, and it actually offers really great resolution. And I'll show you some detail here. These running shoes that I just took right next to me that are drying off, but you can really see the detail here in this image. I mean, very good sharpness, very good color accuracy, very good detail, nice out of focus background blur there. You know, really great camera. You will not be disappointed by the camera in this phone. They've also revamped the selfie camera. If we run over here, you can see they've added like these goofy, you know, Snapchat things, stickers. I don't know what they call these things, but they, you know, they're fun to play with. But, you know, in my opinion, like, leave it to the apps to do these things. I mean, I don't really see a need to have that built into my phone when I can just download the app. Samsung likes to throw in a lot of junk, and we'll get into that here in a second. There's tremendous junk on this phone. Look at all this Verizon junk that I don't need. Look at all this Samsung junk that I don't need. Email, contacts. Well, contacts I guess I can get through Google, but that's just an interface. But, you know, I don't need the Samsung email button. I don't need the Samsung Gear. I don't need a Samsung everything else. And they've downsized that a little bit, but there is still, like, you know, games in here that I don't necessarily want. And there's just little things in the software that they are disableable. You can just turn them off. But I don't really need all this Samsung crap. I've got either the Google version or I have no version of it. And so it's great that you can disable it. It's annoying that it's pre-built into the software. That being said, the software is a bit cleaner to look at. The quick settings have been reorganized and revamped. The main settings have been kind of adjusted into being able to easily browse through them. They're still a little bit, thorough. They're not as clean and simple as, say, like a stock Android phone. But for the most part, it's been changed and changed for the better in terms of being able to navigate this plethora of system preferences. Battery life on the phone is great. I've gotten about a day and a half to 2 days of use out of it. It is a sealed battery, not removable, like I said earlier, so that is kind of a bummer. It does, though, have wireless charging, which is great. So you get yourself a little wireless charging pad, rest it right on there, and boom, one of the great features of the Galaxy that's been around for a while. You compare that to like an iPhone, which doesn't have any wireless charging. Samsung really does well with the wireless charging aspect. Other things to talk about in terms of the overall build of the phone, it is water resistant, so that's great to have. You can take it and not worry about it getting wet in the bathroom or in the shower or in the toilet. Obviously you're not going to want to take it, to the ocean and take it in the salt water, but you can get it wet, and it's made to be impervious to water, so that's a great feature to have. So where does that leave us in terms of my overall opinion of the Galaxy S8? Well, as much as I want to love this phone and as much as I bought this phone with all intentions of keeping it to actually use as my primary device and get rid of my Google Pixel, I can't. And I'll tell you why. The biggest argument against owning this phone is the fact that it is a perfect example of form over function. The design of this phone is beautiful. The edge-to-edge display is stunning. The jet black, midnight black coloration is striking. The sleek, slim, shapely body is a joy to hold on to. But what that leads to is a phone that's easily going to be dropped because of the trim slimness and the sleekness of this case. The fact that it's glass on both sides means that when I do drop it, it's going to land on a glass edge and break. Coupled by the fact that I cannot use this phone one-handed. It just simply does not work for me. And then finally, what that leads me to do is to put a case on this if I actually want to use it. And that is completely against everything I hold in a phone. I do not want to put cases on my devices. I just simply do not want to ruin the design by using a case. And the Pixel is a perfect example of that. Very, very easy to use. It does have that stupid glass piece on the back, but if that breaks, it doesn't ruin the phone. The iPhone is another great example of that. Nice metal aluminum clad backing with a front glass, but easy to hold on to. You do not need a case to operate the phone. You simply cannot use this phone one-handed. And if you try to, it's not going to work and it's going to slip out of your hand and break. So for me, it's a deal breaker. I just cannot use this phone based on those circumstances that I just mentioned. Not to mention the fact that it is expensive. It's $700 and something unlocked in the US. For me, that's just a bit too much for a phone that I have to dress up in order to protect it and in order to use it. So those are my thoughts on the Galaxy S8. Hope you guys have enjoyed this honest review. Don't forget to check out everything else I have on YouTube. Rate, comment, and subscribe. Thanks.